Well, good morning. Squeaky Mayfair voice here, and good morning to those of you who are streaming with us. So, happy Mother's Day. As you all know, we are people who have so much in common. I mean, first of all, we're all human beings, and we're all born of a mother, and we all came into the world through a woman, and we spent 9 months in her body, sharing her blood and her food. And as all of you know, human beings are the most helpless species on earth upon birth. And we also know that each of our mothers had a mother, so our grandmother, and our grandmothers had a mother, our great-grandmother, and on it goes. Each had a mother, so a mother upon a mother upon a mother. And I wonder if you could imagine what it would be like if you could see pictures of all of the maternal mothers in your history, or your personal history, where you came fromness of things, or if what it would be like if you could meet all of your mothers. We all have many, countless number of mothers. And imagine if all of these mothers knew you. And I posit that there is some possibility that all of these mothers do know you. I've been a priest a long time, and I've spent a lot of time with people who are dying, and I've read a lot about death and dying, and particularly those who have died and come back to life. As you know, I love this sort of thing. And many people report being cared for by people who love them, who they don't know. They've never seen these people before. And I sometimes wonder if these are mothers, and if you take all the mothers all the way back to the motherhood of God, however you might imagine the motherhood of God, and to imagine, either starting with or ending with, depending on how we might imagine this, the divine being of the motherhood of God, and all of these mothers and mothers and mothers and mothers and mothers knowing you, and imagine how much you're loved. You just, a mother's love is irrational, and as a grandmother's, and on and on. And as you also know, we are genetically 99.9% all the same. We have the most basic things in common. We have bodies and organs, and we live and we die, we eat, we put clothes on, and we have emotions, and we want to be happy. This is a big teaching in the Buddhist tradition. And in our traditions, we hold that we are all made in love and for love, and that's what being made in the image of God means. It means to be made in and for love, and that we are one people with one God. A very, very basic understanding of how we understand ourselves. And you heard something of this in Pope Leo's initial address, and we see with our mind's eye something of that in that great reading from the book of Revelation, which, let me remind you, I looked and there was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, robed in white with palm branches in their hands. They cried out in a loud voice, saying, "Salvation belongs to our God who is seated on the throne and to the Lamb." And so John of Patmos, many of you have been to Patmos, received these revelations, the Revelation, the book of the Apocalypse. And what the Revelations point toward is the divine courts. That's where we are. The ultimate reality, and that all of God's people and God's creatures, you heard about the creatures around the throne, are gathered there in ecstatic praise of the being of God. Not because that's what you do, because that's what you have to do. It's to come in touch with the being of God is to be lost in wonder, love, and praise. And so there is something like that in what happens here at Mayfair, the kind of pouring in of people and the invitation to all, except instead of the throne room of God, we gather around like the wacky shack which is the ride in the far corner here, and we gather around like a yellow wing chair worth $30, or priced at $30. I won't tell you what it's worth. It's still for sale. I wrote this homily on it last night. Strawberry Shortcake that, sorry Martha Stewart, is Cool Whip on top, books and brisket, and all the treasures that you didn't know you needed to buy until you spent $400 on things you're not quite sure of when you get home. And all of this Mayfair gestalt, this thing, super important to us that it takes place on our turf, our sacred turf, grounds. Our grounds are dedicated to God and to the ministry of Jesus, to all people. That's what our grounds are dedicated to. And in a way, this is not unlike Jesus' day at all, where pilgrims would come to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and the Jewish people had many fairs, festivals, and feast days, and by count 6 or 7 or 9, depending. And those of you who have plunged into John's Gospel, you know that really from sort of chapter 4 on, Jesus goes to Jerusalem often to go to these fairs and festivals. And today's reading that we just heard from Reverend Elizabeth takes place at the Feast and Festival of the Dedication, which is Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah. And it says that Jesus is at Solomon's portico. And Solomon's portico, those of you who've been to the Temple Mount, you know it's 40 square acres. The temple is where the Dome of the Rock is now, was where the Dome of the Rock is now. And around that there was a lattice structure, and that was called Solomon's portico. And so it would be a little bit like saying Jesus was on the Great Lawn. This is the area outside the Holy Temple. And if you've lived through some of my sermons, which are always too long, sorry about that, you can look into the Book of Common Prayer and see in the front that the Book of Common Prayer tells us that we have 7 principal feasts: Easter, Ascension Day, Pentecost, Trinity Sunday, All Saints' Day, Christmas, and the Epiphany. But as so many of you know, here at St. Mark's, we have an 8th feast day, which is the Feast of Mayfair, which is today, and the celebration of community. On Tuesday, I was leaving my office. I was walking across to the kitchen, and I don't know what I was doing there, maybe washing out something or grabbing a snack. And as I walked out the door, Dave Prill's truck, he's got 2 cool trucks, but his Silverado pickup truck was backed in to the loading dock, and I saw Dave climb the stairs, these stairs he's climbed countless times before, and go into the back door of Morrill Hall, a door he's entered countless times, usually carrying a large piece of brown furniture. And Tim Dan, who's seated up there, our treasurer, was in the back of the truck, and Mark Thorsheim, our junior warden, was on the loading dock. And as I was walking by, Tim hands Mark the top of one of those rolling chairs you can buy at Staples or Home Depot or Office Depot. It's got the wheels on the bottom and the padded cloth top. And this chair, this chair was like plum or, I don't know, some derivative of purple. And as chairs go, this thing was ugly. And Mark was rolling the chair around to make sure it all was put together. And he, as I walked by, he said, "This chair is perfect for the Walsh boys and their jousting contests." And I muttered some completely incoherent thing, remembering back to when our boys and our daughter Olivia, who's here right now, were little. My kids destroyed the house. They destroyed anything of value that we had. All the furniture went. And as I was walking away, I heard Tim say to Mark, "They said it belonged to their grandmother." And all I could think of was the used car dealership, where you go to buy the car and the used car dealer says to you, this was owned by a granny who drove it to church on Sundays, kind of thing. And I was just walking down toward my car, and I said, "Yeah, that's what they all say." And we started to laugh. And I don't mean like chuckle. The three of us started to guffaw, laugh. And it still makes me laugh. And as I turned around to look, I had a freeze frame moment. It was like the click of a camera. And it was as though a color movie became a color photograph, became a black and white photograph, in the way that a black and white picture, the right black and white picture, captures time in a way that it renders it timeless. And it reminded me in a flash of the pilgrimage that a bunch of us took to France with the maestro. And as part of the trip, we went to the World War II Museum. And down in the bottom of the World War II Museum, there was a lot of pictures of Dwight D. Eisenhower and American soldiers and soldiers on ships and landing apparatus. And there was one in particular that I remember of some soldiers laughing together. And in that moment, laughing as brothers in common cause, and you could see their joy and their friendship. And in my freeze frame moment, as I looked at Mark and Tim in the pickup truck with this stuff in it, I realized that these are the good old days. We are living the good old days. You are all living the good old days. As someday you get older and you look back upon your life, you're going to want this time and this moment. And as this all happened in a millisecond, as I looked at these guys, I thought about a lot. And, to my knowledge, Tim and Mark and Dave do not socialize with each other. But I knew in that freeze frame moment what I already knew, which was these three guys love each other and that they belong to each other and they belong to this place and they belong deeply to our Lord and our Lord's business. And they have dedicated so much the common cause for the love of the Lord, to do good. It's part of who they are, part of the meaning of their lives, and that they live the law of love, which is to live to give for the love of the Lord, and that they receive so much for their giving, and that these men are good to the core. I know them all very well, and I know that they carry not only heavy furniture, but they carry unseen burdens of their families and of their friends, of their community, and of the world. And in that moment of release, I also had a memory of my mother, who loved the Shakers, and the song, the hymn, someone's got to help me with it, because it is a gift to be simple, dancing, the Lord of the Dance. Sorry, you can tell I only have the sketchiest notes. Not much preparation time, sorry. The Lord of the Dance, that their joy and laughter was dancing upon all the difficulties in the world, all the difficulties of being alive, the human condition, the state of our planet. The joy and laughter just pippy-popped off the top of it. And as I saw these guys, I looked through into Morrill Hall, and I saw that everybody in Morrill Hall and to the people on the lawn were just the same. They were the same as these three guys. And that the people who were working were people of an extraordinary, deep, deep love. And what they were doing, moving furniture around and sorting out books, this was an act of love. And it was an act of community, and it was an act of God for God's people. And that it never would have happened without St. Mark's Church. Never would have happened. That we would not know each other. You certainly wouldn't know me, and I certainly wouldn't know you without this church. And that without the church, we would just, we would be people. And we are all watching the social fabric of our world, which knits us together as human beings. We're all watching it unravel before our eyes. The crisis of loneliness, friends, becoming former friends because their old friends are on the other side of the political aisle, the wrong political tribe. Watching people choose difference of opinion over commonality, over our humanity, over our 99%ness. The world doesn't agree with each other. I called one of my friends who's a Catholic priest after Pope was called, and he said to me, I pray that this Pope can knit the Catholic Church together, for we are two churches. And we all know about the shocking, dehumanizing harshness that is in our public discourse, demonizing of others. This is sin. This is sin, and it is toxically, deathly to all of us. And yet, in the moment, as I was laughing in the driveway, looking back, I saw just the opposite. I saw a community of belonging, of love, and of joy, of common cause for common good. It doesn't matter if you believe in God. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian. Nothing matters. You're a human being. We're all in this thing together. And it reminded me of Robert Putnam. Some of you may know Robert Putnam. He's a Harvard sociologist. I think he's a sort of a secular Jewish man. By his religious disposition. And he wrote a book called Bowling Alone, the idea being that more people are bowling, but fewer people are in bowling leagues. That's where you get the title. And it's about the breakdown and rebuilding of the social fabric of our country. And in the book, he calls upon religious institutions, those who are devoted to divine community, to rebuild human community. In other words, without the divine community, we as human beings can't seem to get our act together. But people who live to give for a divine love, well, they'll do irrational things. They will love. Now, we hear at the end of the Good Shepherd, well, it's not the way let me just forget that. At the end of the pericope we just read, it says that, Jesus says, the Father and I are one. So, of course, this is metaphorical theology, right? That we speak of God in these gendered terms. And we are all children of the divine motherhood and the divine fatherhood. And when we gather together for pulled pork on our sacred turf, it points to that someday we will all be gathered together around the heavenly throne in the divine dimension, however you might imagine that, around the divine being. And then we will know, and I mean like know in the way that you can't even know yourself. So a deeper knowing, a knowing we don't know of, that at the deepest level our being, that Jesus and the Father are one. He was right. What he said was right. And that we are one too. We belong to each other. And that's what the Mayfair spirit is really all about. It's about belonging to each other. People we know and people we don't know, and having them all come together. And when we pitch in with one another, we can do great acts of love. I mean, Mayfair is a staggering, great act of love, done by all of you, not done by the professional staff, who does work at it, but it's all of you who do it. It's a great act of communal love. And so Mayfair is made in love and joyfully delivered. Rain or shine, but it's best when it shines. Thank you. You're the best. Amen.